Hello everyone. So this is Akri uh, uh, meeting. So everyone is to abide by the code of conduct and all these usual things. We please all fill the attendee list in the meeting notes. And so first, let's start with announcements. So, first item here is all the meeting notes were archived. I don't know who put that one.
Yeah,
So,
so we basically reached the maximum length on the HackMD on the other one. So I just created a new one, and the one that I linked in the Slack is the new one. And then if you want to take a look at the old archived ones, I've linked it in the agenda and also at the top of these notes.
okay, and the next announcement is Akri in Azure IoT Operation Public Preview. So, I guess that's also an announcement of yours.
Yeah, I wanted to briefly mention, Azure IoT operations. It's something that me and Lior have been working on, and it's in public preview, and it's super exciting because, we're using Akri to basically bridge OPC UA servers and data sources. We're still obviously very much committed to the whole CNCF open source aspect of this. And, anything we do, we upstream. So, yeah, it's been awesome. And obviously, like all the contributions that you guys have put into this is also like included in this. So, thank you all for your efforts. And yeah, it's super exciting stuff. Kate?
Yeah, super exciting. I had a question. Are y'all using private discovery handlers or are you using most of the open source ones?
We want to use most of the open source ones. And I think the OPCUA one, however, is like a custom, like inbuilt one. And I think we also have plans to use the OnVIF one, but then maybe make a few changes to it. But yeah, I think we'll be leaning a lot on the open source community for discovery handlers and brokers, as well as partners, since there's a lot of different protocols out there.
Yeah, I was gonna guess that the OPCUA one wasn't ours because it has a lot of limitations and isn't super full-fledged. So I was just kind of curious if that was the
Yeah.
case, which is kind of good because I wanted people to have a more fully featured solution. So that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, Andrew, you.
Oh, I was just saying congratulations.
Oh,
Oh, thank
sorry.
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Um, so now for the agenda. The first item is the migration of discovery handlers out of and the samples out of the main repository. There's an open PR for the UDEV discovery handler. So Kate, I don't know if you updated it or if it's still the same
Yeah, it's
as
still
before.
still pending. I kind of got blocked on the testing locally, and then you unblocked me, but I didn't get back to it. So I will get back to that this week. But it was um not as hard as I was thinking. Like it's quite a simple process. So I think for me personally, I'm on Mac OS, so I'm really excited to pull UDEV out because it'll help my developer productivity because that means I can actually like work on my local workstation on Akri Core. So I'm really excited about the idea of ripping that out. So hopefully that gets in, or I can get back to that. We can get into that soon. And then I think it'd be interesting to discuss like ordering. Like, do we have like once we pull out UDEV, what do we want next? Should I just like I'm happy to take that on of doing each of those, pulling them all out. But if there's a priority of which ones to pull out when, I can abide by that ordering. And then I was thinking the only thing that would stay is the debug echo just for testing.
Yeah, on this for the embedded ones, I got an idea. That is maybe dropping the way we embed them currently and have a way to embed discovery handlers kind of generically by having them be a WebAssembly payload. So basically have the agent in that mode pull a set of WebAssembly functions from, I don't know, a set of files or something, and these would be discovery handlers. So this way we remove the requirements to, well, we remove the distinction between a core discovery handler and generic discovery handler, because we don't need any differentiation then. And we also remove the need to pull their crates from the main repo.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I think we'll run into where not every discovery handler can be WebAssembly. But I think that would be really cool. We clearly have a very defined interface that could become a WIT interface quite cleanly. And I think the key limitations will be, what does WASI support? Async is going to be hard, but we can make them synchronous. And for things like UDEV, we would basically allow access to the entire UDEV directory. And I think that should be fine for discovery. For things like outbound HTTP, we might need to look into how to make it permissible enough so that I can basically like scan the ether. But I think it's a really cool idea. And I would be excited to look into that as well. I could definitely use, and I think if anything, so I think we should do this phasally. Like, I think for now, I think it's fine just to pull them out and keep embedding the same ones as crates. And then phase two, I think we should still, I'm curious how backwards compatible we want to be. Like, do we need to always embed these same four discovery handlers, or are we okay no longer supporting that? And make it so that either with like a custom build, you embed them, or they're WebAssembly compatible, because not all of them will probably be compatible with WASM. But I think that'd be really interesting. The other thing that would interest me is figuring out how to make them a long-lived process. Like a bidirectional stream is not like super strongly supported with slash supported at all with WASM. So if we wanted that long-lived connection, we can kind of mock it, but we could also, this might inspire us to kind of change the way our discovery handlers
Yeah.
work to the point where the agent would say discover again, and it would discover on prompting.
Yeah, there was. I think there are some things in WASIX for async and streaming, so maybe we could use that. So
I work really closely with the Bytecode Alliance, like the community organization that's working on moving forward standards. And I think it would be best for us to stick to WASI because those are community governed standards. It does delay the speed at which you can use certain features, but from my understanding, you can't combine use WASI and WASIX. WASIX is a set of runtimes that are different. Namely, Wasmer is a WASIX runtime. Um, I would, yeah, I don't think I could use WASIX, I will say. But I would be happy using WASI to the full support it has. And then in that way we can like engage with the Bytecode Alliance and help propel them, move them forward to the point where we might have like a more fully featured interface stack. faster as being kind of a reference use case. But we can keep talking about that. I do think, yeah, the interfaces define the runtimes that you choose. And we just need to be particular about what runtime we choose to support. Yeah, and I think Wasmtime, which is a WASI runtime, is in the Kubernetes ecosystem under the WebAssembly landscape. Even though it's not a CNCF project, I think it is under the WebAssembly landscape, so it might be good to try and pick ones that are in that landscape.
I just looked into how you could call WebAssembly from Rust and stumbled upon that. So, and in fact, the idea came when I'm currently basically I'm still on the splitting the configuration into thing on myself, and basically I'm re-architecturing the agent for that so that we can more easily uh, change just one part of the agent, because currently it's all chained and not very modular on this. So when I was on the embedded discovery handler, I was like, oh, maybe we could just call some WebAssembly function, but I didn't get to see if it's really possible or something. So yeah.
Also, this is just an aside. Sorry, going back to the WASI thing. Um, for discovery handlers to be pods in Kubernetes, we'd probably want to use one of the container shims. So that also will define what runtime we use. So
Yeah, here I thought of getting the agent directly call them as just a bare function.
oh, embedded binaries.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the embedded scenario. It would be cool if we use the shim because then they have the optionality of them being embedded or in their own pod. Is another part of it.
Yeah, the idea there was to have the current way with the Unix sockets, or have them as a WebAssembly binary that gets pulled into the agent container somehow.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'll play around with it. I think we can have the best of both worlds too, where you can also put them in a pod form potentially.
With an OCI manifest, is there any way to say, like, I know that you can say, like, for a specific tag, different architectures and what the layers are that would be loaded. I wonder if there's a way that you could actually specify, like, here's the WebAssembly versus here's the WebAssembly plus the runtime. So if you pulled it for, say, x86, it would pull the embedded binary and the WebAssembly module. But if, like, you actually put the runtime class in and had it run through a shim with the same tag, it would pick up just the WebAssembly and load it directly. Just the module loaded directly.
Are you saying in case A, you would pull Akri and the WebAssembly modules, and in case B, you run them separately?
Yeah, and so if it's just containerd running it directly as a container, it would know to pull the x86 or AR64 or whatever the that includes the WebAssembly runtime. But if it was running through if it was being scheduled through the containerd shim too, and the runtime is the one doing the polling, then it would know to poll just the WebAssembly module. I don't remember off the top of my head how it deals with multi-arch. I can look that up real quick.
I guess I would assume you would have I guess I don't fully understand the benefit of the scenario you're painting. I would assume we have like our agent pool versus not pool, like we've
The
always
image
had.
tags would be the same. So it would just depend on if you have a runtime class installed, right? So that would be the only difference. So all of your deployment manifests would be the same, and then the underlying system would be able to know which one it actually needs to load. It's kind of my thinking. That way we're not having to build a bunch and track a bunch of different artifacts.
My intuition there would be that WebAssembly is an architecture. So
No, this is doing it. We're way off topic. But how does Spin know to load like a OCI artifact? Like, does it use the ORAS libraries?
Like
Is
when you
it
use spin locally and you are pulling your WebAssembly mod or your spin app from an OCI artifact.
yeah,
I mean, I think it's just pulling that image. Like when you do a spin up and point to an OCI image, your spin just pulls that image and then it expects it to have the OCI file layout of a spin application before, and
okay.
it unwraps it and runs it. In the container D shim, your pod itself references the runtime class that points to the container D spin shim, which is why it then uses the shim and then run WASI instead of run C.
Okay, cool. Cool. So yeah, so I think that would be doable.
I guess I just don't fully understand what the case is. Like my
You know,
understanding would be, sorry, go
one
ahead.
helm chart not having to bifurcate the helm charts based on like if because we don't want to do like fully you don't want to assume that your user is going to have a container dshim that can run the WebAssembly, right? And so for the people who don't, you don't want to like have to have like a whole another set of deployment manifests for those people, right? I'd rather just have the same deployment manifest and then say, if you install the container dshim, it'll run better.
Yeah, I guess I just assumed you would put a WASI equals true flag when you're deploying your Helm chart, and that adds the runtime class and changes the image in the
Just
discovery
one more thing
handlers.
to QA.
It is, but I think the alternative would be Akri somehow inspecting the runtime class of the
Yeah.
cluster and deploying those itself, which we have discussed in the past. Why do we deploy discovery handlers? Why can't we just see configurations and deploy the discovery handlers when we see that discovery is needed? So if we were to switch to that pattern, that would be easier to do something like this.
Sense. Okay.
Which
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
thing to maybe consider down the road that people have mentioned wanting.
So, is there anything else on this topic? Or do we move to the next one? No. So next one is the usual review proposals and issue triage. So let's start with the proposals then. So I don't know. For this, do we want the issue triage at say assigned member to also run the review proposal part, or do we consider them as not handled by the same person?
Well, I think I'm signed up for the issue review, so I can do that part. Did you want to do the proposal review and split it up?
Okay. So let me open the current list of proposals we have pending. So we have we should definitely have a tag to say if it's a proposal or not. It would be easier.
Yeah, I have the roadmap up just with the triage issues. Is that where the proposals are as well? Or somewhere?
No, there should only be the issues.
Okay.
The
Where are the
proposals
proposals?
or just PRs in the
Okay,
Akri docs
I see.
repository. So going from the bottom up, we still have that external device inventory proposal. I don't know who is handling that one now.
You want to share your screen so we can follow them.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Just hope that it will tell me what screen I'm sharing. So let's try this one. Missed. I guess you're seeing yourself there. So this might be this one. There. So we have the external device inventory proposal. That is the oldest one. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
I know Johnson was working on this one, but he's not here today because he's traveling. So maybe we could
Is,
skip this
Yeah.
one.
is that a different one than this though? Because Leo's the one who led this first one. Did
Yeah,
Johnson pick up this exact one, or is he starting on a new one?
I'm pretty sure he picked up this exact one. I have to go and see if I have to ask him and see if he changed a lot of things. I think there may be a couple things in his implementation that he changed. When Johnson's back, I'll ask him to update this PR with his proposals.
Okay. Next one is the arbitrary broker resource type. So I have a branch with that. With a, but it's not working yet because I'm doing the split resources in the meantime. So I cannot put my proposals on hold currently because I'm doing this splitting the resources and I don't want to, well, do it all at the same time.
Would you say that this depends on this resource splitting? Because it might be good to label proposals like saying that this is dependent on that work, so it points
It
people to that
doesn't
first.
depend on that one, but basically it also changed the API. So I believe that the first change we want to make is splitting the resources.
Yeah, I agree that splitting the resources is the priority. That makes sense that this isn't at the moment the focus.
Yeah. I guess, well, it's the same for adding status because, well, basically this whole proposal will change when we split the resources because we have to decide where does the status go for every kind of resource. Uh, Even though considering that some resources are even changing scope, like instances are currently namespaced, but with the split they are going cluster wide. So So this one is also waiting for splitting. The next one is the MQTT one, or MQTT discovery handler. So I guess for this one, we'll wait for the discovery handlers, the current discovery handlers, to be out of the main repository. And so then I have a reference implementation of this that is on the SUSE Edge organization. So basically, if we were to accept the proposal as is in the reference implementation, we could just move the repository there. And next one and last one is the array mode. So basically, the first step of this is splitting the configuration in two. So that's what I'm currently doing. And I'm also, well, I guess it will be the biggest PR, the splitting the configuration into, because I used this opportunity to refactor a lot of things and use newer constructs from the cube library. So
Just a quick question on that. The refactoring to use latest cubes and make it more modular, is that going to come
yeah.
in a different PR than the config breaking, or are they pretty tightly tied?
Well, I first expected to do this on the other way, first split, then refactor. But while splitting, I ended up refactoring. So maybe I should have done this the other way. But currently, they both are quite tied. But maybe I can revert the change link to splitting so we can have them in two separate PRs. That would be easier, I guess, for testing and everything.
Yeah, I mean, if it's really hard to split them, don't worry about it. They're both going to be big anyways, so we'll have to throw ourselves at them. So um, up to you. I find myself sometimes doing that where I'm like, this could be cleaner while I'm working on something else, and it's a bit of a rabbit
Yeah,
hole, but it makes sense.
yeah. For all this split cleaner or things, it's mostly like I'm splitting the cube construct for controllers they made is basically apply this configuration and do everything you need in that reconcile function. So it's a different paradigm from the one we currently have, where we basically look at whether it's an add or an update or a removal. So, and hopefully it will make things way more stable in this, because I add finalizer on the configuration to ensure that every agent has stopped uh, discovering the configuration before the item gets deleted really by the API and things like that. So hopefully it will also solve a bunch of bugs we have with the discovery. But yeah, I'm splitting the discovery handlers management part with the controller part and the device plugin management part. So to make them like three different pieces, so that when we go for the array, we can just add a new implementation for the device plugin part and leave the rest untouched. So yeah, it's going to be quite a big PR. Well, basically, since I'm also changing the architecture of the files to not have everything in the util directory, uh, it's likely to have mostly everything change. So I'm already sorry for those who are going to review that.
There's no way to make it make the change more modular without like incurring a ton of extra work, I assume.
Yeah, no, because it's already really packed. So I'll try to do this in multiple. Well, I'll try to make the PR when everything works on my side, and when I make the PR, I'll do a first pass myself to highlight the part that just got moved, and so try to help reviewers there. But for sure, for this one, we might want to, when it gets on review, we might want to do some kind of session or something to have an explanation with the one who wants to review that, so they can ask me question about it, and I can guide them about all the changes that are going on there, because otherwise it's going to be too painful to review, I think. And so this is the last proposal we currently have there. Are there other questions or on the currently open proposals? Like, maybe do we want to set in stone the DRA one that is likely to be the first one we implement and merge that one? I don't know.
We've always already merged the splitting up configuration one, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have its own proposal. It's
Oh, right.
a step in the DRA one.
Okay.
So maybe we can make this its own proposal, especially since we have to decide for the naming there. Currently, I'm just went with discovery configuration and likely workload configuration for the other part. So
Yeah, I think that would be a good first step to break them up, and then we put all of our efforts in the next like couple weeks to get that one merged. And then while we're in kind of the review phase for that PR, then we can put our efforts into getting the DRA one merged.
okay, I'll set the splitting proposal up then in during the week. So now, next item in the agenda, if there's no other questions, is issue triage.
I just had one thing I wanted to throw out
Yeah.
there before triage. Are folks interested in getting Akri to incubating? And I was curious if we wanted to set goals for that. I feel like all of the proposals we have up are pretty substantive, and also with pulling out the brokers and discovery handlers, it feels like in a year time will probably be a completely different project in a really good way and in a place where we really could um and we already qualify probably for incubating, but I was just curious if that's something that people want to work towards or have thought about at all.
I kind of thought about it, and I think it really is a good idea to think for incubation, but I kind of think we want to finish all the changes we started to have a project with a pretty stable API and pretty stable state before applying for incubation.
Yeah, I agree. We have so many changes in flux that like we're not really in a state where we can welcome new community members. And I think getting to incubation will be an opportunity to bring in a lot more contributors and members, but we want to have something for people to work on because right now, like you can't touch any of the code really, because you're like working on all of it, Nicholas, except for like what I'm doing, which is literally pulling out the only code you're happening to not touch. So it's not really a great time to bring in new contributors.
Yeah, but then I'd be really happy to get Akri to incubating, and even further if we can, but one step at a time.
Cool. So I can share my screen here. I guess it says I have to wait till you stop screen sharing. So let me try. Okay, so this is can everyone see my screen? I guess you have to ask that.
Yes, we see your screen.
Okay, cool. So we have 10 issues needing triage here. The first one here is Akri discovery handler unable to detect IP camera. So this person's having an issue. Kate has responded here. Johnson responded as well. So yeah, it looks like this is sort of being addressed with responses, and I guess up to this person to try what Johnson suggests with the demo.
Or maybe for this, for the action step, we should probably either decide whether we should close it or we need to follow up. It seems like there was some uncertainty, so maybe we should just comment asking at CCloud 622, do you feel like this was resolved? And we can leave it in triage needed. And if they haven't responded by next time, we can close it.
All right, good idea. Okay, on to the next one. So this was a bug I filed a while ago, which was, I think, just it sort of is by design, but or like at least the expected behavior. But it means like the controller pod restarts under like normal operation, as opposed to maybe like sort of more gracefully handling the instance watcher restarting. And yeah, like this bug just got filed because in our sort of integration testing, container restarts were flagged as like bad, like, oh, this thing's restarting. Why is it restarting? So that's why this came up. So I sort of dug into the logs and found where it was restarting. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on this, if this is something worth addressing or fixing, or
yeah, I think when we built Akri, we wanted to explicitly bubble up errors into restarts because they were stateless, and so it was fine. But if you're finding that in y'all's integration test, it sees a controller or a container restart as a bad practice, then that might have been a bad practice. So we could consider not bubbling up errors. So I think we've had this request before too. I think from the industrial IoT folks within that team at Microsoft, they've left other issues about this that are probably still not closed. So yeah, I think that would be a reasonable change. Nicholas, do you have thoughts on
this
that?
particular error, the we can definitely solve this, but I want to add that the new cube controller thing basically hides all these restart errors by wrapping the object into a higher level object that keep the state up to date.
It's like will become a non-issue with the new controller, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, like we could say that and just close it then.
But if you basically, if you want this to be solved before we do API changes, because I don't know, support or anything, then it should be handled before we do all this.
I don't think there's urgency around it. It was more just like, oh, I'm hitting this thing, and then I looked into it, and I was like, I should, track this in some way, document this bug I'm hitting, rather than like it actually being an issue. So, if there's already a fix, even if that will take time, there's nothing urgent about it. The new. Anything to specify when it will, like what specific change will fix it?
It's the move to the cube controller construct.
Cool. Close with comment. Okay, use REST-based coverage tools rather than tarpaulin. So this almost seems like a proposal to potentially, move away from tarpaulin to compiler-driven coverage tool built into REST with more description here. Does anyone know anything about this, or?
I think this is a good idea, and I think it's definitely a good first issue. So I think we should label this as like help wanted and good first issue, and let this be something that we can point a new contributor to.
Yeah, I even think that tarpaulin has now is now able to use that as a backend, but I'm not sure about it. But definitely we can tag this as for new contributors.
How do I add a tag, a label?
Maybe you don't have the permissions. I can add them now.
Okay, I don't think I do.
Okay, they're added.
And so does that move into investigating then, or?
I would say backlog. I think of investigating as we need to figure out what to do. I think with this one, we figured out we want to do it. It's just up to someone finding the time to do it.
Yeah, I also think I can't move them, probably.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll move it over.
Which makes sense if I can't label them.
Cool. It should be there now.
There, yeah, it went. Cool. Okay, next one, LoRaWAN support. And Andrew, it looks like you commented here.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think once we move all the discovery handlers into their own repos, then this is basically kind of won't do, right? Because it would be up to the reporter to build that, or if somebody wants to build it, we could pull their code, right?
Wouldn't be in this repo anyways, is what you're saying?
Yeah, ideally.
Yeah, and it sounds like from described alternatives, it sounds like they have one that's not open source that they might want to use. And so we may want to add documentation to Akri docs that's like here's where all the discovery handlers live, here's their image, to add to your manifest, or like your, sorry, to add to your Helm chart,
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, having a kind of a listing of external resources would be nice there. Yeah, because well, in a way, I'm not sure we want from a testing point of view add any discovery handler that we can't test.
Mhm.
So
Right. So the answer to this person is that we are not going to be including like more, or and may even be removing the discovery handlers from the Akri repo, but you can use it with external ones. Kind of, is that the main takeaway? Like for this issue, do we link them to the docs?
I think we
or
can move that issue to Acri docs first. Well, no, it is not coming with one. Okay, is not. It's not a proposal or something. Just I would like to have Laura. Okay, then well, I don't know Laura enough to know if there is some kind of open source thing around this. But if
Mhm.
it's not, then definitely we are not going to support anything that is closed source.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to clarify if this person's offering to provide it or is just asking for it. Like, I don't think that's super clear.
Okay, I can ask for that clarification. Um,
Kind of along the lines of like, how can we support you? Are you looking to find someone to implement this? Are you
yeah.
looking to implement it and figure out what the process for that is?
Are you looking to, should I say contribute?
Yeah, I like that.
Um,
A lower one discovery handler.
changes to index and looking at
Or is this a feature request?
then in terms of moving it or labeling it, would it go in, does it stay in triage needed till we get more information, I guess? Sounds good. Okay, add instructions on setting Acri instance owner reference when requesting Acri resources. Kate, do you want to speak to this one?
Wow, this is old. This must have been brought back from the dead at some point.
This probably have been brought back there by adding the Aquedox repository to the project.
Yeah, it is in
Oh,
Acri
yeah. Okay. Is there anything if you scroll? Um, yeah, I think I was doing this so that we could make it so that say you're not using the controller, but you request resources, you can make it really easy so that if the instance gets deleted, the broker's deleted without using the controller. And so I was thinking maybe we could document this process. Um,
I see.
yeah, I think it goes along with like, the requesting Akri resources page. I imagine this just being an extra paragraph on there that's like, hey, if you want the lifetime of your broker to correlate with the lifetime of that instance, you can add an owner reference like this.
Got it. That's cool. Is this something you
I
still want to add to the docs? Probably.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to add. We could add it we can put it in backlog, and this also is probably a help wanted slash good first issue. I think other people could probably document that.
Won't doing this mess up with the controller looking for its resources and think this is a kind of a resource that shouldn't be there because there's no configuration matching it, and just delete it?
I think I need to look back at how the controller does that, but um, I don't remember what owner reference the controller adds, but my assumption was that you can have more than one owner reference, but maybe you
Yeah,
can't.
I'm sure we can find a way to ensure that both don't overlap, but we should ensure that we
Yeah,
that these don't overlap.
yeah. There's the caveat there, yeah, for sure. I think I guess before we document this up, to try this since it's been like a year and a half. So yeah, try it, make sure it doesn't mess with the controller's owner references, and then document it.
Okay. Yeah, I can
I can add a note on this later.
yeah. Okay. And yeah, if you don't mind labeling and moving it, I don't have the powers to do that, unfortunately, at the moment. Okay, a few more. I guess we're almost at time, so maybe we'll like try and go quick. Some links still point to Deus Labs Akri Docs repository. So yeah, this is pretty straightforward. Also probably good first issue, maybe. Though maybe it's a
No,
bit
I'm not
weirder.
sure. I think it's something in the configuration of
Okay.
Gitbook. So I think
Mm,
only someone with admin rights on the Gitbook
okay,
can change that.
I see. So do we know who has those rights that we can reach out to?
Eugen and I have them. I'll assign myself to it. I'll look into this.
Okay. Then we have clarify what setup.sh script does in the developer guide. So yeah, in the requirements section, it says to run setup.sh. And we should rather list the needed components in their version, as the script's only valid for certain Linux distributions. I see. Do we have it listed anywhere, what's needed? Or is that just...
In the documentation, I think we just say run the setup sh. It will install everything needed. So
I see. So would you be able to just look at what happens in setup.sh and see what those needed components are and versions?
yeah, I basically I saw that there was this issue, and I just put the issue because I don't have time currently to
Okay,
do the proper documentation around this. So
right. But I'm just wondering if it's like pretty straightforward and could be a good first issue kind
yeah,
of simple thing,
it's
or
yeah, I think it can be
okay,
marked as first issue. It's just like looking at the script and extracting the references there.
Kate, do you mind putting this as first issue and in backlog?
Yep, can do.
Cool. Then we have the next one, the Akri.sh doesn't work. I guess it should either redirect either to the docs or the main repo. Same for www subdomain. I'm not sure what this person means.
When you go to akri.sh URL,
It should go.
it goes nowhere.
I see.
There's only the docs.akri.sh that goes somewhere.
Okay, understood. Okay. And this is something, yeah, we'd want to fix so it does redirect to the GitHub.
Yeah, I think that's
I
the
guess.
easier. Or to the docs, maybe. I don't know. What would be the best?
Right.
CNCF owns our domain, right?
Yeah, I
So
think
I
I don't know how this works. I remember that when I first came into the project, there was someone managing it. It was I don't remember His name.
I think Edric handled setting that up, maybe.
Yeah, that's
Okay. Maybe
Well,
maybe Eugen would know, or
Yeah, I can look into this actually.
I don't know if they delegate the management of the domains to members or if you have to create a ticket on CNCF
hmm,
to get this changed.
okay. So Eugen, you said you'd see if
Yeah, I can assign myself and then we can put it into investigating.
okay. I can't move it, so I hope someone else can.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Nice. OPCUA instance ID application name is not the best choice? Question mark. I agree currently is
Yeah, this is
referencing.
something I've seen when looking into OPCO UA specification.
Okay.
They say there that application name is a localized string.
Hmm.
So basically, I was thinking about moving to application URI that is said to be unique for a given application instance, and that should not be localized.
Got it. That makes sense to me.
So, but as I'm not an OPC UA specialist or anything, I wanted more insight about others on this, and well, that will be a breaking change on the OPC UA
Hmm.
discovery handler, as it will change the ID of the instances.
Right.
And same
What?
here, I just put it as a I think we can make it good first issue if we want to validate that we need that change.
Okay.
And yeah,
Okay. A good first issue and backlog, yes. And we can maybe also just make it clear that we need to investigate if it's even required. Pods with unready containers exist on this node. We can't clean the slots yet. So this person was getting this error that we can't clean the slots yet. And this is their output. And yeah, they would expect that the reconciliation process can be continued if a failing pod is out of USB usage management context.
I'm not completely familiar with the slot reconciliation process, but from what I understand is that we don't reconcile when there's any unready container, because that can mean that we are in the process of getting something scheduled,
Mm-hmm.
and that this means we may be waiting for a request on the device plugin, so we don't want to mark a slot as free, as it might be free-ish.
Okay. So is this
But
like expected behavior then, or do you think there's something going
I
wrong?
think it's kind of expected behavior right now, but I don't think it's that wanted behavior.
Okay.
But I don't really, well, the slots reconciliation is not something I'm planning to change currently with the new agents. So, but DRA will get rid of it in the end, but DRA
Mhm.
is still far away. So maybe we want to look if there's not a better way to do the cleaning the slots. But definitely this is not a first issue.
No, doesn't seem like it. So this would be like under investigation, maybe?
Yeah, I'm curious if these aren't related. Like, I think this person's seeing this log and
Mhm.
assuming that's why their pod is failing, but that might not be the case.
Right.
Because I
I've
think,
seen this too when things are
yeah,
working very normally. So yeah, that's a good point. That maybe it's a red herring.
No, I don't think. I think he have the issue that he has two pods, one that is unready, but is apparently expected to be unready, and this blocks another. Well, this blocks another thing that he has another
Hmm.
pod that gets terminated, and the slot doesn't get freed because there's this other container that is unready. Well,
Mhm.
I think that's the same person that came on the Slack and asked this question about this issue. So yeah, so I had a quick look, but still,
I think we need some clarification on here. I think it definitely sounds like it could be, but the output that he shows doesn't really make things clear to me personally. And what he means by out of the USB usage management context, I think we need clarification on too.
yeah, that's what I uh, deduced from the listing above. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like, do these slots refer specifically to like USB resources?
they are linked to instances.
Is it?
You have a slot per instance time capacity.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, they seem to think that it should only do that. Like maybe they're using Akri to detect USB resources only, and then they feel like Acme should only have this error if there's a USB issue, a USB related issue. So they think that if the pod isn't relating to USB management, then Acme shouldn't have this error, even if it's unready.
Well, my guess was that, well, I know that when you have any unready container
Mm.
on a given node, the the slot cleaning won't happen at all. So that if you have two containers, one that use a resource and another one that is unready, if the one that use the resource terminates, then the resource won't get freed uh, because, well, the reconciler won't
Mm.
run.
Right.
So yeah, this is, I think, a real issue we have, but I don't see how we can solve it
Yeah.
currently.
And if the DRA
Well,
mode is going to fix it, then
my understanding is with slot reconciliation, we specifically get the pods that have a certain annotation on them, and we only check if those ones are unready, not any pod on the cluster. But it sounds like this person's saying that they just deployed another pod to their cluster that's unready and it's breaking slot reconciliation, right?
That's what I
yeah,
understand from this. Yeah,
sounds like that.
maybe we can ask if that's really that, or if we completely misunderstood what he said.
Okay, I'll ask on an issue.
And yeah, that's all the issues we had for triage.
And we're clearly out of time.
We're out of
I led this one because that
time.
was the last one, but yeah, we're out of time.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to stop there. Any closing remarks or anything? Feel free to add yourself to any role for the next meeting if you want to moderate or do issue triage or note taking. So,
Great.
yeah.
Hope everyone has a good rest of the year and the
Yeah.
holidays.
Have a good holidays. Yeah, true.
Yeah. Have
I'm on
good
the East
holiday.
Coast now. Exciting. Big change.
We're going to
All right,
start
everyone.
the year nice and with all with lot of changes for Akri.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
Uh,
thank you.
bye.
Yeah.
Bye.